Hello Summoners and welcome to another Pro Guides video. The World Championships for Season 9 are finally upon us for League of Legends, and every year we all want an exciting Worlds, so Riot decided to give us what we wanted. With buffs to Riven, buffs to Fiora, and buffs to Orianna, expect to see some god tier shockwaves, flashy engages from Riven, and unmatched split pushing from Fiora. Also, today's question of the day is what is your secret OP pocket pick in League of Legends? Mine right now is actually Trundle support, but let us know yours in the comments down below. But before we get started, make sure to go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one on our website every day, and as of now, we're currently uploading a Challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champ, so make sure to click that link below. Also, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro, which provides instant, on-demand, 24/7 coaching from the best of the best, and trust me guys, you don't want to miss out on this, so sign up today. Now with that being said, let's jump into our video talking about which champions we think are going to dominate at Worlds. I want to note for this video, since we're looking at pro play here, champs who are S tier and really good in pro play won't always be good in solo queue. The best examples are things like Victor, Tahm Kench, and Akali. Sometimes these champions are just insanely potent with 2 or even just 1 ability, and in professional play they become infinitely more valuable. Even with the best players in the world, sometimes they need saving in a free escape, and that's why Kench is just so important. Anyway, let's start with top lane and talk about some of the champions that you're going to see at Worlds. Let's start with none other than bruisers. Kled and Renekton are the best bruisers in the game, but Renekton really takes the cake now that Aatrox has been nerfed so many times and has become the best all-around fighter. Renekton has everything you need out of a top laner, and that's why he's so good. He has all of the essentials while having the best laning phase of any bruiser. Historically, Renekton is not known for scaling and falls off pretty hard, but with the introduction of Spear of Sojin, he doesn't feel too bad late game and has an insane mid-game spike. So if you're able to dive onto the enemy's carries and not get kited too much, you are an average late-game champion rather than mediocre, and you are the best mid-game top laner in the game. For the rest of top lane, we have some solid counterpicks and bruisers that aren't as blind pickable as Renekton is, but still very strong. Jax is another Spear of Sojin user, and he's seen a decent amount of competitive play this year already. Kled, after receiving a buff to his Q giving grievous wounds, has been a strong pick that's seen a decent amount of play. We've also seen Pantheon a bit in solo queue, and that's probably going to transition into pro play as well. He was so strong this patch that he was nerfed, but in terms of how strong he can be early game, extremely strong early game teams will love him as a pick for top lane and even mid lane, and maybe even some jungle Panth. And also don't be shocked when Panth is locked in at support as well. For Pantheon, he's confirmed for even more nerfs in patch 9.20, so click the sub button to be notified of those changes if you want to see when we release them. Fiora was given a huge buff this patch, and this should spring her right into viability. In terms of bruisers, Fiora, along with Camille, has been the most viable fighter in competitive play because of her insane scaling in split pushing. At a certain point, she becomes un-1v1able, and this threat in a side lane with really good top laners like the Shy, Wunder, and Huni, you're going to expect to see some Fiora. Korea also has a hard-on for Camille and Aurelia in the top lane, and Fiora can neutralize those picks. Chances are you're also going to see a good mix of tanks, Shen, Poppy, Gnar, and Mundo. But for these tanks, be prepared to face some excellent world-class Gangplank players. With Impact, Bwipo, and many more being able to lock in GP, he has great matchups against these tanks. Finally, Sion and Mordekaiser did receive buffs as well, but they've been pretty out of the meta for pro. Though they may come back and see some situational play, however tanks like Mundo and bruisers like Renekton are just all around better champions for these types of classes. However, Mordekaiser does add a bit more flexibility to your team comp since he does provide AP damage. There are some ranged top laners that are really strong at the moment, but none more suited to 1v9 at Worlds like Kennen. Right now, Kleptomancy Kennen is taking high elo solo queue by storm and is nearly impossible to beat in lane. You can easily earn over 500 gold from Klepto every game, and if you're against a melee matchup, sometimes even more. You're a huge bully with really cheap power spikes like Protobelt and Sork Shoes. Alright, let's move into the jungle. In the jungle role, we have a pattern that mostly shows an inflated amount of solid junglers, and that's for a good reason. Right now, there's nothing in the jungle for pro play that is completely broken and is far above the rest. Instead, jungle feels pretty balanced at the moment with a ton of extremely solid and great champions to choose from, but nothing insanely OP. A large part of this has to do with Sejuani and Gragas dropping down a bit due to repeated nerfs. Sejuani is the single most nerfed champion in the game this season, and she's been hit time and time again with changes. For the early game junglers, Jarvan, Elise, and Lee Sin are the trio of early game gankers, who have very high impact before 20 minutes, whether it's through diving, repeated spam ganks, level 2 cheeses, or level 6 5-man bot with TP plays. If you're an early game team, these champions are your best choices. For the mid-game junglers, Olaf and Kha'Zix now have both adapted Conqueror builds and are set out to provide a bit more damage than other early game gankers and are seen more as a mid-game threat. Olafs are typically going for more of a damage-oriented build now too. For the tanks, Zac received a massive buff this patch and has taken the world by storm, and will likely see a great amount of play at Worlds. Dr. Mundo is also a rising pick that after numerous buffs is now a fantastic jungler. He's tanky, does decent damage, and of course scales very well versus heavy AP teams. Echo is an up-and-coming pick seeing more and more play as he now takes Conqueror in a tank setup with Iceborne Gauntlet and Spirit Visage. Tank Echo is back once again. Finally, Xin Zhao and Graves were buffed a little bit this patch, and we'll probably see some sparing play, as they already were at least situationally viable. Alright, time to run it down mid. We saw a few buffs to mages this patch specifically, but it's also a pretty defined meta that we've seen for a while. Sylas, Galio, LeBlanc, and Aurelia are some of the best champions that you can pick, because if Syndra and Orianna are in the meta, then Aurelia can stomp them. AD assassins like Qiyana are incredibly potent, whereas everyone's favorite balanced assassin Akali is still seeing play. In fact, she was rebuffed this patch because of some nerfs. Syndra is all around the best mid lane mage in the game, but with a new buff, Orianna is looking to rival her presence, and in a Syndra and Orianna meta, that could mean one more thing: Malzahar. Malzahar is League of Legends' most neutralizing champion. He can't be ganked, he can always shove, and he takes very little skill. Even when you're outclassed, you lock in Malzahar and guarantee that you'll be useful. For teams with bad mid lane matchups, or where their mid laner feels okay to blind pick, Malzahar is a great choice. For AD Twisted Fate, who is a champion that is already really strong, he received a buff to make him even stronger, and chances are that Nemesis for Fnatic will be playing a good amount of Klepto TF. Veigar is our sleeper OP pick for Worlds following a nice buff to his E. Veigar was already in contention for being picked in spots, but now in any kind of scaling lane or team comp, expect him to be a clutch pick. Lastly, as with top and jungle, Echo can still be played mid, but as an actual AP champion. You know, what he's designed to do. Echo is probably going to be flexed around a ton this tournament, whether tanky or AP. Now let's move on to the bot lane. For traditional ADCs and marksmen, there are plenty of strong picks. Xayah and Kai'Sa have been the best marksmen in the game for the last couple of months, and even with both directly receiving nerfs, they will still be picked a lot. Ashe, on the other hand, was just given a huge buff, allowing her to properly reset her auto attacks with her Q, and with the best players in the world piloting her, this has pushed her to the top of viability, and she will likely be picked a lot. Ezreal, Tristana, Varus, Lucian, and Sivir are all also standard marksmen that we do see when the top tier ones are banned out, or it makes more sense for that team's composition. Even though they aren't on the same level as Kai'Sa, you can still expect these champions to see play from people who prefer them, like Rekkles. Draven is also a preferred pick by a couple of other marksman players at Worlds, and he's definitely a solid pick that you'll see at least one time. As for non-traditional champions in the bot lane, let's run down a list. Griffin are a huge fan of the Victor bot lane with Tahm Kench. We aren't really sure why they love it so much, but you can expect to see it. Sona Taric is also still a strong combo that has to be played around, and it can wreck teams come late game. Syndra bottom lane is something that Perkz from G2 loves, but he may not be the only one who will play it this year, as Syndra is still a potent champion. Yasuo bot lane has always been a viable pick, and if a team has a good Yasuo player and a lot of knockups, he can be used as a flex. First picking Yasuo, he could in theory go mid, top, or bottom. Heimerdinger was an extremely strong pick in the past, and he's also seen more buffs and some more play. This is a niche pick that could come up huge for a team that knows how to play it. With more buffs to Orianna, she could even see some bot lane Ori come out with a double mage setup. Finally, utility Karma APC for bottom lane could still be played with Glacial Augment, but we will talk more about Karma and her nerfs when we get to support. Finally, let's talk about supports. To start off, the two best supports in the game are likely going to be Rakan and Nautilus. Rakan was not directly hit from the Xayah-Rakan combo, and it was only Xayah that saw any nerfs. Nautilus is the best tank support in the game, and has overtaken Alistar's throne as being the do-it-all tank support. Kench has been nerfed at least a dozen times because of his presence at the highest level, but that literally does not matter because his kit is too good for these types of games. It's a completely different ballgame out there from solo queue, and you'll be seeing the catfish. Thresh is a solid playmaker and hook champion, and him and Pyke are some of the best at this job, and good Thresh players can still make him shine. As for the other hook champion, Blitz had a big buff on this patch, and even though it was hotfixed a bit to fix the hitbox, we can still expect the Gigabyte Marines to whip out an insane full movement speed Blitzcrank comp. Swain and Pantheon support are non-traditional supports that we've been seeing more and more. One of our analysts are predicting that Swain will be an OP sleeper support pick for this year's World Championship. Yuumi was nerfed a couple of times, but is still a problematic and oppressive champion, so you can bet your butt she'll still be there. It doesn't really matter if her Q slow was nerfed because that's not even why the pros made her the best support in the game. Her scaling, insane synergy with things like Garen, and relative safety considering the #1 counter to enchanters is that they are squishy, and you can't target her, makes her all the more annoying. What even is that champion? Finally, Karma was nerfed for solo lanes and more AP focused builds, but that doesn't really hurt support Karma too much, and there's a good chance that she will still be picked quite a bit. Alright guys, that's going to be it for our World Championships meta prediction video. If you enjoyed watching this, then please do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Also comment down below what you think of the world's meta. Will it change drastically from the previous patch, or do you think it'll stay the same? Also guys, don't forget to check out ProGuides.com, where we have courses made for you by your favorite pro players, designed to help you improve at League. That's all for now. Good luck in your next few games, and we will see you all on the Rift.